activities such as saying the word teacher without the sound or asking a child if can and ran actually rhyme are the very things that you should be doing in order to teach a child how to read without them experiencing any foundational learning gaps. That's why in this video, I'm going to share with you 15 verbal activities that you can do to teach sounds, phonemes, and phonemic awareness. And you can literally do these activities anywhere. Literally anywhere. Now, before we get started into the 15 verbal activities, let me just break down all of the terminology and vocabulary words that you will need in order to effectively teach sounds to any child. Phonological awareness is the ability to work with sounds in spoken language. And phonemic awareness is the ability to identify and manipulate sounds or phonemes in spoken language. And phonemes are simply the smallest unit of sounds in spoken language or speech. Now that we understand what phonemic awareness is and also what phonemes are, let me just make this disclaimer that as we deal with phonemic awareness and as we manipulate phonemes, it's important that we do not correlate sounds with letters. We only want to focus on the sounds. Alright, so we're about to go through the 15 verbal activities, and this might go a little fast, so if you need to rewatch this video 100 times and take notes, then do it, sis! The first verbal activity is rhyming recognition, and that's just simply seeing if children can actually identify rhyming words. So, does cat and rat rhyme? Of course, that's a simple yes or no answer. The next activity is rhyming reproduction, and this just sees if children can actually produce a rhyming word based on a word that you actually tell them. So, can you give me a word that rhymes with cat? The next one is same or different, and this is simply when you ask children if the two words you say are the same words or if they're different words. So for example, I would ask a child, is tame and tame the same word? Or I can ask a child, is rat and cat the same word? Now remember, with phonemic awareness, you want children to actually manipulate sounds. So our next activity is foamy segmentation. And this is simply when you say a word and you're expecting a child to break down the word into different sounds or phonemes. So for example, if I gave a child the word rat, I expect them to say at, rat. Or if I give them the word bass, I'm expecting them to say ass. Also, it's important that you don't drag out the words and you simply cut the sounds off. The next activity is to do the complete opposite thing that we just did, which is foaming blending. This time, you will actually say the phonemes of a word, and they have to determine what the word is. So for example, I want them to guess the word that I'm saying. So I would say at, and they will have to blend those sounds and say rat, rat. Or for example, in the word bass, I would say ass. And then they would have to put those phonemes together and say ass, bass. The next one is initial foamy recognition or initial foamy isolation. And this is just simply when you ask the child what is the first sound in the word that they hear. So for example, if I said the word lap, I expect them to say ooh, and I'm wanting them to give me the first sound in that word. Contrary to that, you can also do this with the ending sound and do final foamy recognition or isolation. So in the same word lap, this time I'm expecting them to say p or the ending sound. The next verbal activity you can do with children is initial foaming deletion. And this is simply when you give them a word and ask them to say the word without the first sound. So for example, in the word teacher, say teacher without the first sound, they would be expected to say eacher. Or if I ask them to say table without the t sound, they would say able. Either way, it teaches them how to remove the initial sound. Of course, there's also the opposite, and you can do final foaming deletion, which is where you give children a word and then they have to say that word without the ending sound. So I can say bat without the last sound, or I could say bat without the t sound, and then they would say bat. Of course, one way is more complicated than the other, so use both so children know how to answer both. Now the next one is foamy substitution, and this is simply when you replace a sound with another sound. So for example, I could say cat and replace the k sound with r, and they would say rat. Of course, this one is more complicated, so if you have children that are not quite there yet, you can kind of scaffold them in a series of 3 questions in order for them to answer this question correctly. So the first question you could ask is, what is the initial sound in the word bat? Then they could say b. Then you would say, now say bat without the b sound, and they could say at. Then you would say, now replace the b sound in bat with r. And then they could say rat.
Don't worry about writing all these phonological awareness prompts down because I'm actually giving them to you in my free reading toolkit. This reading toolkit is the only free resource that helps you teach all 5 components of your reading instruction without ever feeling overwhelmed. You get not only all 18 of these phonological awareness prompts, but you get so much more.
Now we're going to transition from actual sounds to syllables. And the next activity that I can have you do verbally is syllable blending. So you would say 2 syllables such as teach, and they will have to put those syllables together in order to determine the word. So they would say teach, and then they would say teacher. Remember, in this, you're only to say the syllables. So you could say refridge, and get them to then put refrigerator all together in order to tell you that the word is refrigerator. The next one is syllable segmentation, and this is where children actually have to determine how many syllables are in a word. So if you give them the word flashcard, they would have to clap it out and tell you how many syllables are in the word flashcard. So flashcard, 2 syllables. And if you haven't already, make sure that you smash the like button down below and join our amazing community of powerful homeschool parents and teachers in order to teach your struggling readers how to read without experiencing burnout. Just like we did foamy deletion, the next activity you can do is syllable deletion. And this is simply when you give a child a word and tell them to delete a syllable out of the word. So for example, if I gave a child the word starfish, I could tell them to say this word again without the syllable star, and I'm expecting them to say fish. Peter Piper had a pickle pepper. Okay, I just messed that up. But our next activity is alliteration. And this is simply when you get children to say other words that start with the same initial sound of a word you actually give them. So for example, if I say turtle, I'm expecting them to give me other words that also start with the t sound, like table, top, I don't know, Teletubby. Now we've been doing a lot of segmenting, and our next activity is sentence segmenting. And this is simply when you say a simple sentence and children have to tell you how many words were in the sentence. So if I said, I went outside today, they would say, I went outside today. There are 4 words in that sentence. I went outside today. Well, if I gave children the sentence, I love cats, they would say, I love cats. There are 3 words in that sentence. Now, having these phonemic awareness activities can certainly teach your children how to manipulate sound. However, while you're teaching children sounds, you also need to be simultaneously working on oral comprehension, or else they're going to be drastically behind when it's time for reading comprehension. And that is why you need to watch this video where I will show you exactly how you can teach oral comprehension in a very exciting way. See you in this video.